Hey guys, welcome to the Big Money Stylist Podcast. I am so excited. I have a very special guest in my home today, Kayla Cardona. Did I say your last name right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm always worried I'm
God.
gonna like butcher somebody's last name, but I'm like, I don't think I did. We did good. So I feel like I'm so excited to get to know you more, and I feel like I was saying before we started the show, like how have our paths not crossed? Because we know so many of the same people, and then like you have such a phenomenal story. So instead of asking people if they want to go to coffee or go get a cocktail, I'm like, hey, do you want to come be on my podcast?
Yeah.
So I think that's just a good way to get to know people. And I also love hearing people's story. I think it's very inspiring to share your story. And I think a lot of people don't do that. And I always say it's a little bit selfish to not share your story for as much as you've gone through. You look at who you are online and your social media and you're so beautiful, but it's like, but how did you get there? So that's really where I want to start with this podcast. I want to hear your story and you share whatever you feel comfortable to share. You seem like a very open book, which I like about you. You seem very grounded from what I can see. And I find that can be really inspiring. So let's go back.
Yeah.
And I was reading on just your website and you were talking about how single mom. Tell me like how everything started.
I mean, so I'm going to skip all my childhood because there's just a lot going on there, but it was tough because I was just raised in two different households, completely polar opposite. And like religiously or non, right? So that was already tough growing up. But to explain the whole like single mom thing, I did get pregnant at 17. It was a shock because it was like my first time having sex.
Oh, wow.
And so my parents didn't even know that I wasn't even allowed to talk about boys. Like my household was very like strict. Like I wasn't allowed to even speak about boys, let alone date them, things like that. So I was very overprotective, over sheltered. So at the age of 17, I did get pregnant. And then my parents basically were like, this is unacceptable. Either you can't abort the baby. Yeah. So either you find an adoption.
In a religious upbringing?
No.
Really? Oh.
We went to church every weekend, but it never aligned with what was happening at home. So I would say like hypocritical Christians. And so they're like, find an adoption family and leave home, or find an adoption family and stay home, or keep the baby and leave. So I did end up finding an adoption family to take my son after I gave birth. And long story short, I came to a realization literally sitting in my room, and I just made the decision. I'm like, I'm going to keep my son. And I had to go tell them. And I was definitely afraid of my parents, like, and so
like how far pregnant were you at that time when you told them?
I was about 6 or 7 months pregnant.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I told them that I'm keeping him. And then they basically drove me in the car, dropped me off at a shelter and signed me off.
Wow.
And then I had him when I was 8 months pregnant. So he was premature by a month. So, and then it was like right after, so I turned 18. So December 20th. And then 4 days later I had him.
Wow.
I gave birth to him. And so then I had to be transferred to another shelter because I was no longer a minor. So I was in two different shelters. And then from there, an explanation of the father, he basically cheated on me, got another woman pregnant and married her, decided to marry her. But when I left to the shelter, I know this is kind of all over the place. I'm trying to give you clip notes. And so I disappeared when my parents signed me off, like for, I don't even know how long, a few weeks.
Was it here in California or where? Okay.
Yeah. So the first shelter was in Santa Ana, like Tustin. And then the second was in Orange.
Okay.
Yeah. So, so I basically, showed up at his doorstep and I was like, hey, my parents kicked me out of the house. I'm living in a shelter. Like, let's get married. I'm keeping the baby, because I had no lines of communication.
Yeah.
And then, so that's when he basically was like, I got another woman pregnant and we're actually getting married.
Was he your same age or was he older?
like a year older.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, I was 17, he was 18.
Yeah.
Like we were children.
Yeah.
So.
Does he have contact with the son now at all or no?
No, he's tried to pop in here and there, but when my son was much younger, I said, either you stay consistent or you're not in his life at all. And of course that was a hard decision as a mother.
Right.
You don't want a boy to be raised, any child to be raised without a father. But like if he is inconsistent and is not a good role model, like you gotta, make a decision. So which was the best decision. I was able to raise him the way
you wanted,
that I've wanted. And we are closer now more than ever. And he's 17 now. So
is he your only child?
My only child.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy. How did you, so you're the single mom, you're living in shelters. Like, where did you go from there? How did you like mentally overcome? And like, for me, like my kids give me a ton of purpose and they actually drive me even more. I'm assuming like you have this baby, this is going to push you. Like you have no choice, sink or swim. You're like, I got to swim.
Yeah.
So how did you do that being so young? And, how did you afford to even like live? Like, how did that start?
Yeah. Well, things were a lot cheaper back then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I was renting rooms after the shelters. I was renting rooms for like, you could rent a room for $500 a month.
Oh, wow.
But I was also working day and night.
Yeah.
So I've always had 2 or 3 jobs and all the jobs I've had, were like, you can make commission, like you can make more money or like tips. Right. So I've always, as soon as I turned 21, I got jobs in nightclubs. So I did bottle service and bartending, which back then you made really good money. Yeah. I mean, I was making like $1,000 a night.
Yeah.
Like back then. Now you don't even make that much anymore.
Yeah.
People don't spend that kind of money in the clubs anymore. But yeah, I mean, that's how I survived. I just made it work.
Yeah. Did you ever have anybody else come into your son's life, or like at the time where you just kind of focused more on providing basically?
So in the very beginning stages, like the earlier years, I was in toxic relationships because I was desperate for help. Yeah. So I was accepting these type of men. And it was funny because it wasn't funny, but it was guys that their family was willing to help.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't just about them. It was like the family that's saying, hey, we'll help you, things like that. Right. And so it was, but it just, that came with the prize.
Right.
So I finally had to come to a decision because those toxic relationships, the guys I was getting involved with, it started getting like abusive mentally, emotionally, physically. And I even got involved into drugs. And I said, I have to make a choice. Right. So I had to let go of that. And then, but I've never been like in a real solid relationship.
Yeah.
So
how did you, so you're doing bottle service and then when did you finally have enough of that? You're making great money, but then it's got to be exhausting and probably at some point you don't want to work 2 jobs. Like where did you transition from there?
I actually quit. So I ended bottle service when I just felt like I was just getting too old.
Oh,
like my late 20s. I'm
done.
like, I shouldn't be bouncing around in this, lingerie.
Yeah.
So I became a full-time bartender and actually didn't quit until after the Netflix show came out.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, okay. I bartended all the way up until that point.
Okay. So when did you end up going to cosmetology school and what made you want to go that direction?
Because I tried going to college and that didn't work. And I was like, this is not for me. Like, I can't do this. And I went to Santa Ana Community College. I still have dreams to this, nightmares still to this day. Of going and not going to my classes or can't find my classes or not finishing my homework. Funny. I still have nightmares. It's wild. So, I tried to do community college. I've changed my major so many times. I thought I wanted to be a nurse and then a music producer. What? I didn't know what to do with my life.
Yeah. You're trying to figure out the path.
Trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
So, beauty school, I don't know. I think someone mentioned it and I was like, I've always loved hair and makeup. That sounds like
fun.
The best deal for me. It's, cheap enough. It's a trade school. It's not that expensive. Yeah. Right. And then at the time I got government assistance, and I was in the government system. So they kind of helped pay for some of it.
Okay.
And that's what really helped too. Yeah. It was, I had WIC, I had food stamps. I was able to live off of that.
Right.
And I received that. But I got to a point where I started making too much money. And
Mm.
so they started giving me less money.
Yeah.
And that's when I questioned the system.
Right.
And I was like, wait, so you mean to tell me for you to help me more, I have to make less.
Right.
But then you're causing me to stay in one
exactly
place.
You can't grow.
Yeah. I'm like, I'll never be able to grow.
Yeah.
And so that's when I just literally, I'll never forget that day. I was looking at my social worker and I'm like, this is almost disrespectful. This is broken. Yeah. This is too broken. You can keep this. And I stopped when I could have continued.
I was going to say, so many people get stuck in that because of lack of belief in themselves, honestly.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's like, you're like, I don't want that. And I feel like you probably have had multiple points in your life where you have to make a decision. I always say it's just a matter of making a decision.
Yeah.
So you were like, I'm done with that. And then were you doing hair at that point or?
Yeah. So I went to beauty school. Oh my gosh. So my son was born 2006. So I did 10 years. Oh my gosh, I have to do math right now. I would say when I met you guys 10 years ago, was I in? No.
It sounds like you were doing all of it at once. You're like, I was bartending, I was going to school.
I was doing
like,
it all.
I know. That's why I'm like trying to find the timelines. Like,
I know. All I know is I did it for 10 years.
Okay. You're like, I did.
I don't know when it was. And then I've been doing now real estate for 4.
Yeah.
So
why did you what made you transition
to real estate? Because I was literally standing on my feet every day for 8-9 hours. My feet were hurting. My back was hurting. My hands were hurting, getting carpal tunnel at almost hitting 30.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, this can't be it.
Yeah.
Like there's no way.
Yeah. It's so people don't understand how taxing physicality is for a hairdresser.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I was a hairdresser for about 5 years.
Okay.
No, not like 6 years.
Okay.
And then I just, and you should probably know this. Working in a salon full of women is like, I was surprised I didn't lose all my hair. Like it's so like, I didn't understand the industry with how catty women can be and disrespectful and unprofessional they were, because my mentality was survival mode. Yeah. Like I just needed to work, show up, make my money, leave, take a nap for 1 or 2 hours so I can head to my night job. Yeah. So I didn't understand. Like I was like, why are people so disrespectful and just dark?
Yeah. The hair industry, it is. It's kind of wild. Like, I mean,
it's crazy.
I've been a hairstylist for 20 years. But, but it's crazy how you're like, that's like one of the things I'm passionate about teaching is not burning out.
Yeah.
I'm like, because you have so many hairstylists like just working for long 12-hour days and they burn themselves out. It's like you have to have boundaries and you have to make it like it really comes down to, it's like a numbers game. I always say, like, if you're working 12-hour days, then you have to figure out your pricing and things like that. But I think the problem in the hair industry is like we're just taught the hair side of it and we're not taught any of the business or the boundaries, and like hairstylists are just taught to grind. Yeah. That's why I was interested to hear why you chose to leave it. But yeah, I get it. Like you can't work those hours on your body. No. Like you physically start to like shut down.
Yeah, exactly. And so, and I was doing really well. I mean, I built my clientele and I had, so I went from, sorry, I feel like I'm all over the place. I went from women's hair to men's hair.
Okay.
Because I was like, I'm gonna be honest with you, I sucked. Like I could do hair extensions all day, but color's
hard. Yeah.
I'm just like, this is too scientific. I could not figure it out. And I was ruining people's hair.
Yeah. You're like,
and then I was doing makeup, which I loved. But I was like, let me get into men's and try this, because this woman hair is not working for me.
And it's stressful. Yeah.
And the hours, oh my gosh, like a woman's sitting in your chair for, 3-4 hours. Yeah. If you're doing like color and hair extensions and all of it, versus men, it's like they're in and out in like 30, 45 minutes. So I was like, let me just try men's hair. And I had a talent in men's hair because it's different. It's creative and I have a really good eye for detail. Yeah. And so I was like, let me go back to school. So I got my barber license.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so that's when I learned new techniques. I'm like, this is not how we cut men's hair in cosmetology school. So I thought it was fascinating. Yeah. And I loved it. And so I was able to build my business. I opened up my own salon suite and I was just like, go. And then, I don't know. I just felt like the salon suites were really getting expensive. So I was like, let me see if I can get a job in like a barbershop. So I did work in like, there was a barbershop in Laguna Beach I used to work at, and then another one in Newport Beach.
Okay.
And it's just like, I was kind of moving around, but all like in the same areas. So I wasn't like really losing too much clientele.
Yeah.
So, and then I was just, I had a chair at a barbershop, and I kind of liked it because I was like the only girl.
Yeah.
Every single time. Yeah. And they loved me.
Yeah.
And it was so fun. And it wasn't full of drama, which is actually ironic.
Because you're on.
Now I'm on this show now that I think about it. But if you guys obviously like watch it, I'm like,
you seem pretty chill. Yeah.
I'm, so, and I get it. Sometimes you gotta give them a little story. Something because, it's a TV show.
Yeah.
Anyways, but, I just remember cutting hair, and I was like, this can't be it for me. Like, this is tiring.
Yeah. You got the calling again.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. And then, seeds were kind of planted from my clientele. They're like, you should look into real estate. I'm like, huh?
Yeah.
First of all, no one in my family is in real estate. I don't even own a laptop. I'm not tech savvy. Like, because I was thinking like you needed to be like tech savvy.
Real estate is more like sales.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, let me just, and no joke, for fun. I was talking to my best friend at the time, and I was like, let's go let's get our real estate license, see what happens.
Yeah.
And we did it together. She didn't finish, but I did.
Oh, okay.
And then when I took the test, I passed the first time.
Oh, wow.
And the reason why that's significant is because I cannot take tests to save my life. Yeah. Like, I'm not book smart. I'm street smart. Throw me on the street, take everything away from me. I can bounce back in, no time. But taking a test is anyways. Yeah. But I passed it, and I was like, I'm going to take this as a sign. Like, why? How did I pass it? And so I ended up being an assistant to a top producer at a team through a friend. Yeah. Long story short, I started making money I've never seen before.
Yeah. You're
and
like,
this is as an assistant. So I was like, I think I could do this.
Yeah.
And so slowly but surely, I let go of hair clientele. Ended up getting into real estate full-time as an assistant, but still bartending because that survival mindset was like, it's cash, cash money. Yeah. Like I can't let this go. Yeah. And then after this show, I was doing it while I was filming. After the show came out, I no longer could be behind a bar bartending.
Yeah. It's crazy because like everything, I feel like I relate a lot of the things you're saying. Like I went to college for like a semester, and then I was like, never mind, I'll go do hair school. And then was like, I don't know where this is going to go. But for me, like my story was different because my skill I had was hair. So I kind of built my brand and everything else. But I love how you like had these moments where you're like, wait, there's more. Yeah. And you leaned into them. Yeah. Because a lot of times that people don't do that. They don't get curious. They don't lean into an opportunity. They just tell themselves like, oh, I'm a hairdresser or whatever. I should just be happy, stay in my little box. Yeah. So it's like, it's so cool. Like I always say, like, if you say yes, like if it's like have faith and say yes, you get more opportunities.
Absolutely.
So tell me, how did you end up getting on the show? Like, how did that all go down? Seems like it kind of went like slow but fast.
Yeah, no, seriously, it did because I was an assistant for a top producer for like not even a year. And then we started kind of butting heads, and I was just like, I want to be an agent on the team. I don't want to be an assistant anymore. Yeah. I ended up becoming an agent 6 months in. Netflix reached out to me on Instagram.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's how it happened. Yeah. And come to find out, someone else that they interviewed and didn't end up making the show, the cast, referred me. They said, because I asked them, like, do you recommend anyone? They're like, oh, they mentioned my name. Still to this day, I don't know who she was. But yeah, that's how they found me.
It's a small world though. And I think that life works in timing.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
So you've been on the show for how many years now?
I mean, I always look at him because he's my memory bank. He's my memory bank. I just focus on what I got to do today and that's it. Yeah. Well, I've been with the Oppenheim group for probably 3 years. So 3 years.
Okay.
I left. So when they reached out to me and I said, do I need to change my brokerage? They said, yes, you have to join the Oppenheim group.
Yeah.
And so that's when I said, no,
okay.
I'm not interested because I'm just very loyal. And so fast forward, this was during 2020 when all this was happening. So everything was delayed. So they reached out again and I'm like, wait, what? Like months later. And I forgot about them. And so they're like, you don't have to commit to anything. Just like, just check it out, see what you think. And that's when things started happening at my job that I was thinking about leaving anyways.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, hold on, is this like their spirit? But I'm a Christian now, but at the time I was like, is this like a sign?
Yeah.
So I kind of listened to that and leaned in. If there's one thing about me throughout my entire life is like, I was always a risk taker. Like I just always leaned in, but I think it's because like it doesn't get, I've experienced all of the worst. Like you can't get worse than anything that I've gone through. So anything else is better
I was gonna say,
than what I'm doing.
It's like there's no ceiling.
Yeah.
Essentially.
So whenever I had those moments or feelings, I'm just like, okay, what is this about? Yeah. And I do get curious and I lean into it. So anyways, how
has it been being on the show? I mean, I guess the drama is it it's not really drama, but like you said, they have to.
Oh no, there's drama.
There's drama.
I don't know what show you watched.
Well, I mean, there's less drama than some of the other reality shows, so it's not so bad. But how do you deal with? Because I mean, I coach a lot of hairstylists, and I'm always telling them like, just put yourself out there. And they're like, oh, I'm super introverted, this and that. Like, I can't put myself out there. But then it's like, that's how people connect with you. Yeah. That's how people trust you. That's how you build your brands, your personality, whatever it is. How do you deal with, being on a reality show, like tuning out the noise? Yeah. The haters? Like, do you get riled up sometimes? Are you like one of those people that's like delete and block? Like, how do you deal with that stress and pressure?
So in the beginning, I didn't know how to deal with it because I never dealt with that before. Right. It was tough. I was in this dark depression. And so I was like, they gave me this bullcrap storyline that wasn't even true. And I kind of, I apologized for things I shouldn't have apologized for because I just wanted to be liked from the cast and from everyone else. Right. So I just felt like I was turning into like, I don't know. I just want people to like me. And then I really got to a point where I'm like, this is ridiculous. This is not the Kayla Cardona that I know. Yeah. Like I've been through way too much crap to be like this. I know who I am. And so I had to snap out of it. I think a lot of us were really nervous in the beginning because to put yourself out there like that, it's scary. Yeah. But when it came down to it, I just reminded myself who I was. Yeah. Like I am, and not that I'm putting like anyone else down, but I really believe that I have the most humility. I have gone through so much and I genuinely have a good, pure heart. Yeah. Like I have nothing to hide. Right. I'm not, anything that a lot of these cast members are. So, when it came to season 2 and 3, I was more of myself. And the response was like, whoa. But it was crazy because like season 1, if you see the difference, I don't know if you watched all of them, but it's okay if you didn't because it's whatever. I don't even have time to watch anything. Like I get it. Season 1, it's like, people were calling me like weak and no backbone and two-faced, which never made sense.
This is not me at all.
Yeah, I'm like, this is definitely not me. Season 2, I decided to stop caring and just be me. And now I'm the bitch. Now I'm too mean. Oh, and I'm just like, I can't, no matter what you do or say, you're never going to make not everyone happy. Right. And then season 3, it was filmed back to back. So you still got Kayla, but it was interesting because it kind of shows you how they can edit and manipulate. Yeah. Because I looked different in season 2, but I looked different in season 3. So season 2 was more of like they made it seem like I was stirring the pot a lot, and I was like bringing up things that shouldn't have been brought up. But let me just say something real quick, you guys. If you don't see it coming out of my mouth, okay, I didn't say it at that moment. They have a way of editing things. Okay. So there was like a scene at a bar that I brought up something, but you don't see it come out of my mouth.
Oh, wow.
Because I didn't say it at that moment. I said it from like days ago, and they took that. And anyways, I shouldn't be saying this.
But how does that work? Like when you're like watching it, you're like, like, are you kind of like, I signed up for this?
Choice.
Yeah, you're like, I signed up for this.
No, you signed up for this. You sign a contract. However they edit, you just have to put up with it. But that's the risk you take.
I think though, you said something. You're like, you have to know who you are. Like truthfully. Yeah. Like you see it with any reality show, it can either make you or break you. Right. And you've gone through so much. You're like, no, I'm too powerful. I'm not going to. So it's almost like the I don't care factor, but it's really like you're just like, I'm going to be me. Yeah. You can't break me. You can't shake me. I've gone through so much. So it's kind of like, I think that's really cool to hear from you is that you're just like, you know who you are. Yeah. And, people can twist it any way they want. And I just think it's like stressful. Social media in general nowadays is stressful. Like you get like 10 positive comments and you get one and you're like, when you like get fixated 100%. On like that one crappy comment. How do you deal with even inside of like social media, like negative comments or things like that? Are you kind of like pushed away, blocked, delete, like whatever? Yeah. Like, how do you deal with that?
So I don't.
You don't?
Because I'm so strong in who I am. Like I just don't. Every now and then, I will say this. I do have a social media manager. So if he sees anything that's negative,
clean it up.
He just deletes it. Yeah. Or a message. So like half of the comments and messages that's been sent to me that's negative, I haven't even read it. Yeah. I haven't seen it. Yeah. So that helps. But I know a lot of people can't really do that. Like, I understand if you're not in a position where you can't like literally hire someone to go through your social media. Yeah. But that really helps. But it's just like, again, it's just remembering who you are.
Right. So it can't like impact you.
No, because think about all the other people that you're positively impacting.
Right. Exactly.
They need you and want you and watch your stuff. Yeah. Those are the people that matter. The ones that say the horrible things
they don't matter.
They don't matter. Yeah. And they don't get it. Yeah. Because the ones that say like, I'm this, that, and the other, it's like, oh, you don't know me.
It's like a frog page. You're like,
yeah. And it's always from fake pages. And like,
I know.
It's like, what are you doing significantly with your life? Yeah, like, who are you to tell me about me?
Exactly.
So
that's crazy. So now this is like an opportunity. You don't look at it as like drama or anything else. You're like, this is an opportunity that you've had. I love that you have like, you're not just in real estate though too. So you are in life coaching. Yeah. And we were talking about this before the show. Tell me about your program. Like what inspired you to start that? I mean, obviously your past, your history, everything you've gone through, but why did you feel called to go down that life coaching, right? That's heavy. I know, because my husband's like in that field and it can be dark and it can be heavy. So what inspired you to go that direction?
I always knew that I just wanted to help people because of what I've gone through. I've seen I've experienced a lot of things a lot of people shouldn't have from a very young age. And I just feel like God puts us through challenges and it's my testimony and using your testimony to help others. I think it's so important and it changes people's lives. And I know you said, I think it was off camera, but you said something that, everyone has their story and sharing that, you have no idea how many people you can help with your story. Yeah. Because just knowing that, because when you go through hardship, you think you're going through it alone. It always. Right. But when you know and hear that people out there understand you and they get it, it's very healing for yourself just to hear the story. Right. So as a life coach, it's like I would be doing a disservice not to be a life coach because I have so much that I've learned and dealt with and just know from experience that I can go and help others. Because if you really break down, and I'm sure your husband knows this, when you really break down what we struggle with, we all are struggling with the same things. Right. in just different ways, different levels, whatever. Right. Mm-hmm. So if you've gone through something like that, is your testimony that you need to use. That's your tool to help
others,
someone else. And that's what I believe life is all about.
How do you because it sounds like, your child and everything was like, it was rough. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it's like a lot of people get stuck in how their brain's wired. And like, how did you really like overcome these limiting stories and beliefs, like with how you were raised? It's like, I always tell people, like, sometimes you have to rewire your brain.
Yeah.
And it's not something that happens overnight. What kept you like essentially pushing forward, like with all your past, like everything that happened, having a son, being a single mom, like how did you just keep choosing yes for you?
Yeah. I'm still trying to figure it out. Yeah. But during those times, I mean, I wish I could tell you that it just one day it snapped and I just figured it all out.
Right.
Like everything was great.
Right.
But it wasn't. Mm-hmm. It was broken heart after broken heart. Mm. It was failure after failure. I've failed so many more times than I have won. Mm. And it was just over and over and over. And it was very painful and it was very hard. And it really wasn't until recently when I became a Christian a year ago.
Oh, wow.
That when things just started making sense. Mm. And now I realize who I am and who I belong to. It's changed everything for me. He gave me a new heart. That's the truth. And I'm 35? I forgot my age, but I'm somewhere around there. Yeah, I'm 35. Okay. So it took me that long. And I'm still learning every day. Yeah. So, but I will say this. I didn't make all those decisions throughout my adult life because for me. I didn't have a choice because I had a son to raise.
Right.
There was plenty of moments where I thought, if I just leave this world, no one's going to miss me. Like I'm not anyone. Right. I'm not anything to anyone.
Right.
My own family disowned me. The father of my child left me for another woman. Like I'm not deserving. I'm unworthy. Like, who am I?
Right.
And that was my thought forever.
Wow.
But God knew what he was doing when he gave me my son, because the only reason why I'm still here. What was that?
He gave you purpose.
He gave me purpose. And that's my story. I'm not saying go have a child so you have a purpose. Like, that's not it.
Right. But everyone has their path.
Everyone has their path. Find your purpose. Find your calling. And usually, how do you find that? It's whatever breaks your heart.
Yeah.
What breaks my heart? Specifically, women and children that is just lost and broken, because I know what that's like.
Right.
And I'm still realizing why I'm doing what I'm doing. Like, another reason why, like, I found out why I love selling homes so much, because my home was taken away. Like, you can find a purpose and passion in anything that you're doing, but you have to remove yourself from the equation. Once you stop making things about yourself, that's when you begin to start actually living.
Yeah, I love that. It's crazy though, because a lot of people, they don't have their passion or their purpose or whatever it is. And sometimes it's like you're searching to try to find it. Yeah. But it's like, where, it could, like I said, I never knew I was going to be passionate about doing hair and building anything until, we lost everything. So sometimes you have these trials that really mold you and create the person that you've become today.
Yeah.
So with life coaching, tell me about your programs. Like, how does that work?
Yeah. So right now I do have my group coaching called Breakthrough. It's a group coaching where we meet every 2 weeks. We have Zoom calls. We're in a group chat. We talk almost every day. We have our weekly goals. We have our check-ins. We're all like an accountability partner. Then we have a book of the month. So it's basically just a community. Yeah. And so that's the thing, is that people need community. And another thing that I have learned recently too, just after coming to God, is that I was in a dark place for so long because I did not have community. I did not have people around me to say, Kayla, you got this. Remember who you are. Let me help you. Because I grew up in a way where you're independent. You got to figure it out. You cannot burden people with your problems. You need to figure it out, and you need to be strong while you're doing it and smile while you're at it. So it's like, that's how I grew up. So if I try to like, I still to this day have difficulty asking for help. But I have to just, I got to ask for help.
Yeah.
You know, because once you learn better, then you can do better.
Yeah.
So that's really the biggest thing. So with my breakthrough community, that's what I wanted to create. Now it's new. It's actually almost done. It's just a 6-month program.
Oh, cool.
It's something new that I was not ready for. And I told my mentors, which mentors, you guys, you need mentors in your life, period. Like that's just it. Invest into yourself. That's one of the best investments you can do. My mentor was like, you got to jump and figure it out. And I was like, but I need a website. I need a back end portal. Like I need all these things. No. Just start and figure it out. While as you go.
It's like the commitment, right?
Yes.
You make the commitment and then you learn. You get feedback from the people in your community and then you can create whatever you want out of that. But so many people start at a fear of failure and you're like, you don't know what you're going to do. You just kind of have to go. So it's fairly new for you and it's going good. I do agree. Like community is huge. Like I have my little hair community, but it's literally like we get on calls and it's like I'm like, where are you at? Where are you at? And people just share. And I love inside the communities that like they will just help each other out, you know? So you feel like seen and heard. And I love that you just said like, women don't like to ask for help in general. Yeah. Like we just don't. It's not like, it's not just a you thing. It's like all women. They're like, I don't want to burden you. I got to be the strong one. And if you do that, your soul literally like dies. Like you're like, I mean, I went through a ton with my husband where he was like, we've got everything. Why are you not happy? And I was like, I think I've like lost myself a little bit. I need to get back into community and coaching and that thing. So I think that's like so important to do. And I love that you're going all in and you're doing it. And I have no doubt that it'll evolve into something maybe even bigger than real estate. We don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know.
I know it will.
It will.
Like I just feel it. Like it will.
Yeah.
But
I love that.
That's timing.
I love that you're saying how you just recently kind of got back into being a Christian. How did that work? Because if being raised that way, you said it was like not really real. Like it was like fake Christian. Yeah. And then we kind of just like shut down to it for so many years and then kind of had this calling to have God back in your life. Tell me about that.
So one household, we went to church every Sunday, but it was like, I didn't understand anything about the Bible, anything that the preacher was saying, because they're talking about love and how you're not supposed to like judge, but as soon as I get home, I'm judged all day. Like it didn't make sense to me. And then I was just told that I had to praise this God that I can't even see, hear, touch, like nothing. I'm like, this is a joke. So I never actually believed in God. And like, I would like, one time I got baptized when my son was young, but because I felt like I had to, because I was told that that's what you're supposed to do. Wow. And then in the other household, whatever, my mom was an atheist. And then she would, sorry, trying to be careful about how I said this. And she was like that type of woman that had the mentality like, oh, if there's a God, then why does good thing happen? A bad thing happen to good people. She had that mentality. And then like, oh, would you give up, your son to be crucified and die on the cross? And it's like, well, first of all, I'm not God, but like it's just things like that. So I never really believed in him. Wow. And so I had a personal encounter with him, and then basically I got delivered, and that's when I became like a true believer. And so that was wild. Yeah, it is real.
I've been interviewing quite a few people, and the God conversation keeps coming up, but I do believe that in accepting God, literally like doors open up. Yeah, like it's literally like I was like green light, green light, green light. Yeah. So I think it's very powerful, and I like hearing people's stories. I was actually raised Mormon, and then left the church a long time ago. But kind of felt like I had to be in church or nothing. So I was in nothing for a really long time, but I always felt very like, I don't know, like always felt like I could feel kind of like the Holy Spirit guiding me. And then recently we started going back to church, but yeah, it's fun to hear everybody's journey, and the more you're open to it, the more you say yes, the more you have faith. Like literally doors open up. And I love that you're kind of pursuing this other passion of life coaching, and I'm excited to see where it goes. And you're such a grounded person. You have such a good story. So it's been so fun even just like having you on the podcast and getting to know you a little bit more. So tell me about, one more thing I want to talk about is your podcast. What inspired you to start that, and tell me what it's about?
Yeah. Pain to power. I mean, it's in the name.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like I just, again, there's so much power in vulnerability. There's so much that you could do and heal through people's stories. And so I first came out with Pain to Power in 2019.
Okay.
And I was like on this high of like personal development. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm going to start this podcast. And it was just a microphone in my room, no visuals, no videos, no nothing, just audio experience. Right. And then 2020 hit. I became like everyone else in the world, got depressed and was like, I'm not good enough. I'm not going to finish this podcast thing. Like, what was I thinking? Like I was going through this dark spiral. And so, and then I just decided to bring it back. Where are we? Last year, just because God told me to.
Nice.
I was like, okay.
Yeah. You're like, I guess we're doing this.
Sure. But I'm not going to invest into it. Like, I'm not going to do the visual thing or any of that. Just take the pressure off. And then this year.
Yeah. I was going to say, I've seen a lot of your stuff.
Yeah. Well, then this year he spoke to me again and he's like, you're now going to invest into a studio and like bring it to life. And I'm like, I can't afford this. Like, what do you mean? But God, the more you obey, the more he blesses you.
He trusts you. He's like,
hey,
he's like, Kayla did what I asked her to do.
Yes, just do it and I will bless you. And that's exactly what he was doing. So I brought it back this January on my YouTube. My YouTube is, I think it's YouTube Kayla Cardona or MS Kayla Cardona. I don't know. So now I have a studio and it's doing amazing. Yeah. But yeah, it's basically a series of people's stories and how they've overcome adversities to get to where they're at today. Yeah. I just had another episode that was filmed this past week. It wasn't even like, because a lot of it you can learn from and you know take, because it's a lot of entrepreneurs, life coaches themselves, preachers, you know. But I just had one that was so different from what I've done, but it was basically just her incredible story. And I lost it. I was just crying the whole time, but like there was nothing to teach there. It was just something to listen. Yeah. And when you hear that story is going to change lives. Yeah. And so I just was bawling, but I'm not afraid to. So it's like, it's so real, so authentic. Like there's no edits. There's no like, because in the beginning when I first started, I was like, can you like edit all the ums that I say? Yeah. They're like, no, they're like, well, we could. But then I was like, make it as real and raw as possible. And I want people to see the emotion. I want people I've had grown men, tatted men cry. Like it's very powerful show. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's probably in your calling too, is to you've shared your story. Yeah. And you've gone through a lot. So now you're like, let me extract your story. Yeah. So that's kind of what I've been doing with my podcast recently is I'm like, I'm going to sit here and like, let people share their story. Yeah. I'm like, cause there's so many times you can tell your story, but there's so much power in hearing other people's story. And it's a great way to connect with people. 100%. You know what I mean? It's like, to me, podcasting in long form, I've had so many great friends come out of it. Like, I'm like, wow, like you're so fun to get to know. So well, I love hearing your story. You guys definitely check out Kayla Cardona. And if you need to get a house in Orange County, she can help you out. Or if you need a life coach, she definitely can help you out. And for all of my hairstylists, I know you guys will love her. So definitely check out her content. Thank you again so much for being in my house. I'm going to give you a little home tour now.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I've been dying for that.
But yeah, we'll definitely keep in touch. I'm sure now that our paths have crossed, we're going to be seeing each other a little bit more. So thank you again for being on the podcast. All right, you guys, stay tuned to another episode of the Big Money Stylist Podcast out every single week. Bye.